On set, I'm often the one conducting the interviews. And by the way, hi, I'm Lizzie. If you don't know me or why I'm qualified to talk about this, I co-run a video production company. Truthfully, I love conducting interviews and I've had some pretty sweet mentors over the years, so along the way, I've picked up a few things and I think I'm pretty good at it. I 100% believe that having a good interviewer completely determines the success of that interview and how your story is gonna shape out. So whether you're working on a documentary or your next corporate project, for example, being a really good interviewer is a super valuable skill and one that can really help you stand out in this industry. So let's get into some of these tips on how I prepare for my interviews, a few tips on how I conduct them, and a few things on how to make you and your talent more comfortable. Okay, first things first, preparation. How do you prepare for this interview? So you need to start with a script in order for you to understand where this story is going. Make sure you include in that script any key lines you need to get from that interview subject and your main plot points, because even though you know this story is going to be changed along the way because it's mostly interviews, you need to write a script that essentially gives you your ideal final product. So you know how you want to open that story, where your plot points are, and then how you're going to tie everything together in the end. Going in with that foundation and that really thought out story is really going to help you once you get into that interview and create that perfect story. Okay, so now it's time to work backwards. Now that you have that script, you're going to create a list of questions based on that script. What this is going to allow you to do is really try and cultivate those desired responses from your talent, because one thing you never want to do is to just be feeding your talent answers, because all that's going to do is make them nervous and uncomfortable, and they're going to feel like they have to memorize things, and that's really not what you want. Generate that list of questions that's going to kind of nudge your talent in the right direction and really cultivate those desired responses. So what this is going to allow you to do is make sure you're hitting all those plot points in your script, maybe even getting something really, really close to that opening sentence you wrote yourself, and maybe a really, really nice finishing sentence to wrap up the entire story. Why don't we move somewhere else in the apartment? Let's see where else we could shoot. So you're in the home stretch now. Here's what you need to do as the last thing before getting into that interview. So now you have your script and you have that list of questions. What I want you to do with that list of questions is take that excerpt from the script that you're trying to get as that desired response for that question and just write it underneath. And this is gonna kind of be your cheat sheet when you're in that interview. So in front of me on a clipboard, whenever I get into any interview, is I have that list of questions with that desired response underneath. And then on a separate piece of paper, underneath that, I have my script. So if I need to look down and if I need to make sure that the interview subject did answer that question the way I need to make this story flow, then I can just look down and make sure I got what I needed. It also allows me to make little notes as I'm going along to remember something specific, maybe that the interviewer, the interviewed subject, the talent, the person you're interviewing said, so I can jot little things down as we're moving along. What you need to avoid is looking down at that list of questions too often though. You need to have all of those questions memorized and that script memorized like the back of your hand. So when you go into that interview, you know how everything is going to flow, how you plan on opening that interview, how you plan on closing everything up, maybe a few ways of tying one question into the next question. You need to know how it's gonna go. You're running the show, and you really wanna avoid looking down at that list of questions as much as you can, and here's why. Sorry, got tired, needed to lie down for a second. Once you get into that interview, what you really need to keep top of mind is eye contact. If you're looking down all the time and taking too many notes, then your talent is going to think you're bored, you don't really care, and they're not gonna really feel like you're actually having a conversation with them, and that's what they need to think. Your talent needs to be completely comfortable with you, and keeping that eye contact allows them to stay focused and stay present in the moment, and then they might actually give you better responses because of that when they're not nervous and not distracted, and maybe they'll actually start to trust you more. If you're having a really emotional interview, that eye contact is key, because they're gonna feel like you actually care and you actually want to hear those responses, and you should. Paying attention to your talent and keeping that eye contact is really gonna make them feel that way and keep that whole conversational vibe going on. Do I have to get up now? I guess I have to get up now, don't I? really try to create the feeling that you're having a conversation with the talent. So make sure you're working in your questions naturally. Be ready to recognize when you're heading in the direction of approaching your next question or topic. Make sure you're getting everything that's in your script and in that question sheet, but also be ready and attentive to go off on a tangent and explore something that you think could really add to that story that maybe you didn't know about before. So try not to keep it too strict, but at the same time, make sure you're getting everything you need and keep it light and conversational. It's a lot to remember, but you guys got it. Whew. How did we get on the floor again? I don't know. Anyways, always try to get back to the emotional side of things with your talent. So don't be afraid to ask them how something made them feel, because people want to hear the emotion behind the story. That's really what people can identify with. So these can be questions like, I bet this made you feel so proud, or you've come so far. How did that make you feel? And a lot of times these questions can sound kind of stupid and kind of redundant in a way, but that's just because you're almost trying to get a certain kind of response from them. Say you really want the talent to use the word proud. So saying, I bet that made you so proud, kind of subtly influences the talent to use that word back to you. They'll say, yeah, that made me feel really proud, or I've never felt so proud before. And now you have that one line that you were looking for. So kind of asking those stupid and redundant questions is gonna get you the results that you want and delve a little deeper into the emotional side of things. Let's get off the floor. I'm just setting up my next shot right now, but I thought of something that would be really great to lead into a little bit, to lead into this next thing. Just a lot of leading, I don't know what I'm saying, because I didn't write this part out in my script, but anyways, staying relaxed, I think, is a really important part of having a good interview too, and you need to be just as relaxed as your talent should be. So if you go in feeling confident and feeling good and keeping things lighthearted and conversational and really trying to just kind of become friends with your talent, things are gonna be a lot easier for you in the long run. So one little thing we do when we're testing audio is we'll ask the talent what they had for breakfast that morning, so that we can not only get their levels, but then we can kind of make some jokes about what they had for breakfast, what we had, and I don't know, just throw in some sarcasm and keep it lighthearted and keep it friendly, because we really feel that that helps set the tone for the rest of the interview. So that energy is what your talent is gonna feed off of and is what's gonna create a good, comfortable interview. Let's do the actual setup now. So now you're on set. You're sitting across from your talent who has probably never done anything like this before. And it's your job to make them feel comfortable and to let them know how this is going to go. So I call this the brief, and it's just a few things that I let the client know, kind of give them a brief rundown of how the interview is going to go. And here are a few of the items that I tell them. First of all, and probably the most important thing, is that I get them to look at me and not the camera. So if we're gonna pretend that this setting I'm in right now is an interview setup, I'll actually have them angle their body a little bit in this direction. I'll leave a bit of negative space in the frame this way. In this case, we're using my computer screen to fill that. And I'll get them to look at me. So then it's a lot easier for them to pretend like we're just having a genuine conversation. Because I find when people start looking directly down the barrel of the camera, it makes them really nervous. And I say barrel of the camera because it does look like that when you're not on camera very often. All in all, having them look at you and not the camera makes it a lot easier to get more genuine responses, keep them focused, and keep them engaged in the conversation. So the first thing I say is something like, so I really want you to think of this interview as a conversation. You can look at me, try your best to pretend that the camera isn't even there, because I just want you to speak naturally and freely. I explain that I'm gonna ask them different questions, but I don't want them to worry too much about ums and ahs and things like that, or if they have to start their sentence again because they've made a mistake. That's all totally okay, because it's our job later on to trim all of that out. So I just want them to relax and pretend it's a conversation. I'm saying conversation a lot, but it's important to say it a lot because you want them to know that it's a conversation. The third and final thing I'll let the talent know is that I'm hoping for them to answer my questions in complete sentences, because the audience who's watching this video won't see or hear my voice in the final product. If they're not quite understanding what you mean by complete sentences, you can give them this example. So if I ask you, is the sky blue? And you just say, yeah, then the audience who's watching this video later on won't know what you're saying yes to. So if I say, is the sky blue? I need you to respond with, the sky is blue, or yes, the sky is blue, something like that, in order to give context about what I'm asking. Oftentimes people forget to do this, but I still find it's important to tell them ahead of time because some people do pick it up and it does make your job a lot easier. If they forget, it's really not a big deal. You should be listening to this interview throughout to know if you need to ask them to repeat an answer or something like that. But like anything else, practice makes perfect. You'll get a little bit better with every interview. And the best part about doing interviews for video is that you can actually watch your interviews over again. And I highly encourage you to do that because you'll notice certain things that you did wrong and things that you can improve on along the way. Like for example, maybe you'll notice that you could have structured a question a little bit differently, and that would have made it easier for your talent to understand and could have gotten you a better answer, for example. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like down below, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell to get notified when I post new videos. And happy interviewing, everyone. See you later.